And of course you can take the opportunity to ask the caller questions about any program or ask for literature, as I inferred to earlier. So just again, do that little extra homework to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Some examples, maybe you won a prize or money. I've had these calls, but in order to claim it, you have to purchase a product or something like that. I guess the bottom line is on that type of solicitation is that here's another one. You want a car, or they want some money up front to get the car to you. But the bottom line is that always remember, if you want something, it's free. If it's free, it's free. You don't have to fork out money to get a prize. So that's the bottom line on telephone fraud. Home renovations is another one that goes on. I don't know if you folks are be aware when you're looking to renovations. So avoid contractors who knock on the door and tell you just happen to be doing work in the area. Promise a discount if you allow them to use your home to advertise their work, or quote a price without seeing the work to be done. The normal recommendation is that you get a written or a quote from 3 qualified practitioners or contractors. Maybe in these busy times, people are in a hurry to get things done because they can't, they can't seem to get tradespeople. But you'll have to be aware. They demand a large down payment, or they're going to conduct a free inspection. They'll probably come up with a suggestion for some major repairs, which may not be necessary. Fraudulent renovator doesn't have a proper municipal business license, an area contractor's license, a Revenue of Canada GST number, or workers' compensation coverage. And if your contractor doesn't have workers' compensation coverage, you might end up being liable for an injury that happens on your property by the person doing the work. So it's something you just have to keep in mind, that the homework has to be done. Be sure you know who does what and why. Proper licenses from the city. The homeowner is responsible for deciding what should be done. In other words, you shouldn't be telling them what should be done. You tell them what, they shouldn't be telling you. You tell them. Selecting the contractor, making sure that what you want done is properly described in the written statement that the contractor provides to you, so that getting the appropriate zone approvals have been taken care of. The general contractor is responsible for supervising the workers, suppliers, and individual tradespeople, ensuring the work is of good quality and getting the required permits. And as mentioned earlier, making sure that they have proper liability insurance and they have their workers' compensation coverage. Now I have several more here, and I don't think we're probably going to have time to deal with all of them this afternoon. I could talk about bank inspectors, long-distance telephone calling, foreign identity theft, or internet security. Does anybody have any specific interest in any of those topics?
Identity theft, I think would be interesting.
Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
We hear about it now.
Maybe we could just talk a bit about affinity fraud. I don't know whether you folks saw last Monday's Vancouver Province. There was an article in there that talks about affinity fraud, and this more has to do with investment issues than with the general run-of-the-mill trying to get some money out of you. What happens in affinity fraud is that somebody, or maybe even people, will work their way into an organization or a group, and often a church group. And what happens is that they get involved, they participate, they build up their friendship and trust with the group, and then they start coming up with, you know, I've really got a pretty good deal going because I've discovered something that's offshore or here or there or somewhere, and you know, we can really get a great rate of return. I think this article in the province referred to a fellow that was with a church group, and he had won his confidence, and the fellow was just about ready to transfer $1 million electronically to these fraudsters who are offering him some sort of investment that were in the neighborhood of 7% a week. Well, that's pretty. That's a pretty generous piece of information. So, anyways, this group that's working in concert with the BC Securities Commission happened to get hold of him and started talking to him before he hit the button. But if he had been coerced and convinced and made feel comfortable with this fellow, and by gosh, he just about got stung. And that just recalls for me a situation that happened in Kelowna about 1.5 to 2 years ago. There was another event where a bunch of people in that area got invited into a very lucrative investment arrangement, which turned out to be fraud. So, something to keep an eye on. Probably, well, I don't know whether we've all had it. But I had an experience back in about 2 years ago now. I all of a sudden had a phone call Visa, and they learned that I had some transactions that had occurred in Eastern Canada, and so they canceled my card right there because I, of course, confirmed that I hadn't been there. But 2 years before that, we had been down to the coast to a conference, stayed at a hotel in Vancouver, and of course, when you go into, they want you to give us. Well, so we had handed our card over. They had taken it. We don't know whether there was staff or whether they had just been not very good at getting rid of their old documents. But it was quite a surprise to find 2 years later that somebody was trying to do transactions on my Visa card. So they had done one or two transactions, and then Visa people got what got their attention was that these people were trying to move money from my card via Western Union to the United States. So the Visa people caught on. So they're watching for these things, and of course, so that got their attention. And about a month later, I got a